皆さん、こんにちは。今回の動画はポーカー界のレジェンド、ルースアグレッシブなスタイルで知られるフィル・アイビーが、タイトな戦略でハイステークスキャッシュゲームに挑む姿をお届けします。フィル・アイビーは、その冷静な判断力と鋭い戦略で知られ、数々のトーナメントで輝かしい成績を収めてきました。彼の参加するハンドやポストフロップのプレイを観察し、皆さんのポーカー戦略に役立てていただければと思います。それでは、最高のプレイヤーから学び、あなたのポーカーゲームを次のレベルに引き上げましょう。
Played some epically big cash games throughout the years, was a part of those who ventured out to Macau.
アイビーはプラス1から1万のレイズ、ハンドは4のペア。
When you talk about the high stakes, you know Phil Ivey's there.
シュアンはコール。
Here he is, pocket fours. Picks up tons, jack 8 suited. Andy looks down at ace queen.
Dinner yet, Hans?
What's that?
Dinner?
Yeah.
Where? Downstairs?
No, we ate on the beach. It's a nice pizzeria, actually.
Any nice
Yeah,
restaurant?
a lot. And the view is amazing.
アンディはビッグブラインドからスクイーズを狙います。アイビーはフォールド。
57 total.
Here is good also, the restaurant.
太高到了啊！对，这一盘不太高到了，这是最棒。
アイビーはストラドルを選択。ハンドはエースジャックのスーテッド。
Resumes.
コールがカットオフから1万戦のレイズ。
这边啦。
11,000.
アンディはコール。
Boss, a flat from the dominating Andy. With ace 10, who is in turn dominated by this ace jack suited. For Ivey, which is
アイビーはコールします。
to simply flat. Pretty one in the window and that king of clubs for Phil, but nothing more than the Broadway gutty.
アンディとアイビーはチェック。3人ともガットショットです。
Paul to pre-flop raiser. He's gonna take a stab at it.
コールは2万のベッド。
I think he'll get called in two spots. There's one call. A nice to straight draw, ace jack. Has backdoor clubs as well.
アンディ、
And actually
アイビー
the
と
best
も
hand.
コールします。
Seven of spades.
ターンは7のスペー
Or
ド。
flush draw comes in. Nobody with a spade. Two-way straight draw now for boss.
This often just goes check through because when boss gets called in two spots, you can't really expect someone to fold too often, as someone could have a flush. Or like a king X with the king of spades, they wouldn't be looking to fold, so check we go. This is
ターンは
finest.
チェッ
The
ク
king
ラ
of
ウンドに
spades
なり、
brings in
リ
a
バー
lot
は
of
キング
hands,
の
but
スペー
no
ド。
player actually has anything. Ace jack high is good.
Ivey doesn't know that, of
アイビー
course.
はエースハイのト
Boss
ップキ
failed
ッ
to
カー。
follow through on the turn after that 20k bet in position on the flop. He knows he lacks showdown.
If Paul can just throw in any amount of chips, he can win it. But it's so hard to do so. I would say it's unlikely someone's holding the ace of spades. Oh, look at Paul. This is great deduction.
ここでポールが大きくベッド。
90k
シ
into
ョーダウンさせません。
And for Paul to bet into two players looks even stronger. Paul's range is definitely not capped. What a
アイビー
takedown.
はフォールドします。
Third best hand. Toji. Nothing deemed worthy. around to Phil's Jack 8 suited.
Seems to be worthy enough
アイビーはジャック8
to
スート
warrant
で
a
リン
limp.
プ。ポジションはスモールブラインド。
Hands. Limps the king
ハン
9.
ズはコールしフロ
Says
ップ。
run it.
アイビーはフラッシュドロー。
Ivey with the Jack high
ハン
flush
ズは
draw
キング
hands
の
for
トッ
second
プペ
pair.
ア。
I like that Ivey's betting this flop.
ここでアイビーは1万のリードベットをします。
Not necessarily the strongest ones, but definitely some of the weaker ones. Gets the king down. Nice take. Really only watch him play cash games when it's a big Triton one, so good to see him at the Invitational.
Feels appropriate for Ivey to get an invite, given how far back he goes with many of our Triton regulars.
エルトンはカットオフから1万2000のレ
Well,
イ
I'm
ズ。
sure when he first roamed up to Macau and
アイビーはボタンからコールします。
I'm not going to say they
ア
were
イビーのハンド
starstruck,
が
but
隠されていま
obviously,
す。
you
一
know,
緒に考えていきましょ
legend
う。
of Ivey, these guys probably really appreciated an opportunity to rumble with them, and we're going to block out Ivey's cards here as he flats the Elton 12K Open. Mystery card time, brought to you by GG Poker.
And Chuan is actually going to re-raise this pocket 7 something.
シュアンはビッグブラインドからレイズ。
Sometimes he
スクイーズでもあり
squeezes,
ます。
basically based on mood.
3 bet time, brought to you by Tan Chuan.
Imagine Elton Tsang is going to set mine these 2 5s. Here we
It
go.
isn't a cheap
Elton
proposition to
はコール。
do so, given it's another 47,000 required, but Elton's chips being in the pot does make a prospective call to close the action that much more potentially profitable for Ivey.
Oh, what about all of the chips?
アイビーはここでオールインです。リンクからのオールイン。プレミアムハンドでリンクしたのでしょうか。スタックサイズが他のプレイヤーの3分の1しかないので、それ以下の弱いペアハンドでもオールインできます。
This
Phil Ivey
is
doing this with.
tough to call with 2 7s.
He flatted the button against the Elton Open. Ton 3 bet, Elton flatted, and now all of a sudden
相手からはものすごく強いハンドに見えます。
Like for Ivey to be able to back raise jam, I think he's got 5s in big trouble.
5 seconds.
Lays it down. It's actually ace-6 suited. Wow.
No.
エース6でオールインしてきました。
Ivey got 7s and 5s down with that.
Ace Jack up front for Elton.
First to go is Ivey.
アイビーはエース3スーテッドでレイズ。ポジションはプラス1。
The earlier position the raise, the more you tend to flat ace-jack rather than a 3 bet.
エルトンはコール。
Wheel draw, produced by the King 4 deuce board. Elton
アイビーは C ベット。
not really in love with this texture, facing the 18K C bet.
Still gonna make the call.
エルトンはコール。
Not going to improve.
ターンは8のステード。
Not that he needs to. Given that Ace Jack is best right now.
Ivey could double barrel, but because he put in a bigger C bet on the flop, he feels that the hands that would check call, check fold
リバーで3が出てアイビーはロー
in
ペア。
range.
Note that this 3 on the river does complete the flush. And Does put Ivey in front at showdown with a pair of threes, provided he's allowed to get there, which he is not. Elton bets 55,000.
エルトンはブラフ、アイビーはフォールド。
And
エルトンはプラスワンでリンプ。
more of this peculiar limping that Elton has been largely responsible for, and he's done
アイビーはハイジャックからクイーンジャックオフで16000のレイズ。
which activates Ivey's Queen Jack.
Could see hands attack King Queen. Actually laying down, that was the one thing I did not expect to happen.
I think Hands is giving a lot of credit to these Elton limps. He wasn't around for kind of the onset of them, and so I don't think he has as many data points. Maybe the only thing he heard about was the aces limp.
エルトンはコールし、フロップへ。
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big statement in itself. It's just surprising, that's all.
King 6 deuce. Elton with the best hand and the only flush draw.
Yeah, but that flush draw is often enough to check call, at least a flop bet.
アイビーは2万の C ベッ
To
ト。
the tune of 20, just south of half pot.
エルトンはコール。
Tsang calls, and that is a problematic turn
ターンは S。
for him. Ivey does pick up the Broadway gut shot, faces a second check in front of him.
Could see Ivey double barrel here.
No, instead he's going to keep it clean.
アイビーはベットしません。
The nuts.
リバーは10のスペード。
Granted, this is provided that nobody has
アイビー
diamonds.
はストレートです。
Does feel like quite a safe assumption.
Main targets are Ace and King X. 40k designed to try to
アイ
get
ビーは4万のバリューベット。 エルトンはコールできません。
For 5-5. Private games out in Southern California.
アイビーはストラドルを選択。ハンドは4-3のスート。
See how he fares against these killers.
Yeah, I don't know if he wants to be playing against a guy super deep who is anything and is always relentlessly blasting, but
Well, we want him to.
we
Randy.
do. We want plenty of victims for Dan Trent.
我拍他打你还敢夸？你不知道我的吗？
アンディは2万のレイズ。
偷我的鸡。你又不是没见过。鸡鸡。也不是。我真在想。
アイビーはコールします。
真在想。敲，敲的是算的。
Queen 10-9 here. Queen eye straight for Andy. Unfortunately for him,
アンディはストレートです。
defended the straddle. Not much to speak of.
He flop any better?
Yeah, King Jack.
アンディ、17000のバリューベット。
Follow up to the pre-flop raise.
アイビーはフォールド。
Disappointing. Did you? I read this thing recently about how, I don't know, you might have seen it too, where someone went on a date and then he was going to pay for dinner and then some girl ate 48 oysters and then he did not pay the date and just left her with the bill.
エルトンは6-4のスートでレイズ。金額は12000。アイビーはカットオフからキングスをコールします。通常はレイズするハンドですが、ここはトリッキーなアクションです。
Tanchuan and company
现在直播一样的。哦，现在是在直播啊？
对，等于就是现
into
在
the pot
今天我们
or
今天
even
打一样的就
那能看到底牌吗？
没有
into a 3-bet.
This, Ollie. Players should be
コールはコール。
scared of squeezing
3-way で
Ivey
フロ
after
ップへ向かいます
seeing that raise earlier.
快进的吗？我刚才看的可以快进的。它不是录影的嘛？现在
Note that it was only a6 suited that he had on
アイ
that
ビーはオー
occasion.
バーペア。エルトンはセカンドペア。
That Elton has
现在播出来，
on this one.
我们 YouTube 还没有存到直播。
就是你往回看是可以，
Nice for Ivey to get checked too.
但是你想要往后
As he's going to try to build this pot. 35,000.
チェックした2人に対して、アイビーはポットサイズのリードベットをします。
如果你每天8个小时看得下去了，就
Do foresee Elton taking one off with the pair of sixes.
Gonna cost him 35,000 to do it.
I'm sure he's concerned about the price though. Hoping to
Elton は
improve,
コール。
hoping to dodge the diamond. 10 on the turn.
ターンは10のスペード。
哇，一共24万，他把这个怎么抠的？
エルトンは
6-4 with
チェック。
checks.
上头了吗？跟你说，
发个90K，我想这个面怎么看？你靠这个司机都不可能不中这个面的，
拿了好70-80万的还上头啊！
估计没戴眼镜，还没看清楚的吧？
Massive
アイビー
bet
は
once
ターンで
again.
も、ポットサイズのベッド、
天数
とてもアグレッシブです。
哦，对，I think 哦对啊，对啊，我还没注意到他的。
エルトンはフォールド。
Looks curious.
アイビーお前、クリフロのリンプ嘘だろ。って感じですかね。
怪我啦，我不上
He
当。
totally concede.
just turn to the villa.
many people, big group.
Yeah, we had like okay group, yeah.
アイビーはプラス1からクイーン9のスートでレイズ。
Yeah, mostly, yeah. We just like after tomorrow, then we're like
ハンズはコール。ハンドはジャックス。
to kill 1 week. We didn't plan, so we decided on Ibiza, like on Monday. How much?
So hands just smooth
I knew you were
calling.
going to make an.
Two jacks.
エル
gives
トンも
Ivey's
コール
open.
します。
Actually, you went after.
3-way でフロップへ行きます。
Under repped and sitting on top set now.
ハンズはジャックの
Unfortunately,
セット。
4 hands. Nobody has anything else to take pride in.
This is
Two
one of those
checks in front of him.
spots where maybe I actually check it back. The pre-flop raiser didn't see bet. He's got so much hand. Of course, we don't blame him for betting, but like you said, they've got nothing.
ハンズのベッドにフォールド。
3 flying X.
Elizabeth.
エリザベスがプラス1からエース10オフスートでレイ
Ivey's
ズ。
got ace 6 of clubs. This is his magic hand.
アイビーはハイジャックからエ
Last time he
ー
also
ス
had
6のスートで
He
コー
got
ル。
re-raised behind him, which could potentially happen here from Tanchuan's button. And then he came in blasting for a full nearly
シュアンのハンドが
300,000.
エース8、スクイーズしそうな間で
It's
す。
crossing Tanchuan's mind, isn't it? Like, should I squeeze? Which is more his default in this spot. Yeah, it doesn't slow him down. Show me twice and maybe I will, but let's go.
シュアンはボタンからスクイーズしました。
Not from concentrate. This is a very fresh squeeze on the button. Elizabeth concedes despite having the best of the ace-X's.
Yeah, but ace 10 off is hard to play.
アイビーはコールします。
Ace-6 suited. Deemed easier to play, and now 7-7-6 on the board. Backdoor clubs
アイビーはチェック。
and the
6を
fortuitous
ヒットしてます。
side card connection for Ivey in 117k exchange. Checking over to Tan. No spade on board, just the 8 dangler working.
这打得好了哈。
这个想给你20万就要吃过去了嘛。
对，不是红头的好一点。
因为红头我就找不到那个牌赢你的牌了。
折了很多了嘛。
50k C bet.
シュアンはアイビーのスタックを確認後、5万のベッド。
And you want action from Ivey, he gives it to you and he outflops you with this pair of 6s and 7s on board.
反正我赢了。
アイビーはコールした案で。
Oh, but the 8.
ターンは8のハート。
That's nasty.
也不会了。
Innocent looking
アイビー
card.
はチェック。
50、20，你打了20。
Little does Ivey know that it's a very impactful one.
扣不动了。
After the check call of 50,000 delivered another 100k into the middle, Ivey checks once more. And let's see if Tan wants to play pot control.
I could see it either way. Yeah, he is going to play the pot
シュアン
control.
もチェックしリバーへ。リバーはキングのクローバー。
Interesting card, as it's the card that's supposed to favor the 3-better.
アイビー、
Also,
チェック、
it's a card
ショーダウンを
if Ken
狙い
didn't
ます。
have the king, he would try and represent, and that might get Ivey potentially pay off to a river bet if it does come in.
トニー G がじゃれてます。
Tony G
Happy.
getting his
Happy winner.
inner Gen Z on
9对10
as he takes
这个
a selfie with the man that holds most of his chips. And Tan
シュアンも
shuts
チェ
down.
ック。
Ivey uncertain about the
这
A6.
个是不行的。
No
Okay.
6-5.
Never find me the full
Tony
pot.
G's
I
cut
think
down his
great.
losses. Down about 850,000.
No,
He
that's
actually
great.
won about 575k in profit with that Jack 8 spades shove.
アンディはプラス1からレイズ。
No, flop. You raise. I fold.
Definitely the craziest frame so far. Here we go.
トニー G はコール。
11k, Tony G calling Jack 9 suited.
I know you're not surprised by that phenomenon.
アイビーは6-5スーテッドでコール。ポジションはボタン。
And water.
Yeah,
シュアン
he's
も
gonna
コー
throw
ル
in
し
extra chips
フロ
if
ッ
fingers
ペ。
off.
It's high.
So, multi-way affair. King 6-4, 2 diamonds, Jack high flush draw for Tony. Pair of
トニー
sixes
G はフラッシュドロ
for
ー。
both Andy
アイビーは
and
6のセカンドケアです。
Ivey. With the queen kicker. And he's gonna bet it like he knows it's good, even though we have seen
アン
some
ディは
deference
18,000のベッド。
post-flop. When things are very multi-way.
Tony G has just got a new strap
トニー G
today
のレイズ
because
に
he's
アイビーは
raising
フォールド。
Jack 9 of diamonds here on a semi-bluff. So Butcher is back. And Elton Tsang.
エルトンはキングクイーンオフスートでプラス1からリンプ。
What else is back? The mystery cards?
That they are.
アイビーはハイジャックから2万のレイズ。アイビーのハンドは隠されています。
So we'll black out
一緒に考えていきましょう。
whatever is responsible for this raise to 20,000.
うん。
トニー G がエース8スートを折り、フロッペ。
That hit the mug. A little bit peculiar. Elton hangs in there with the king queen, flops an open ender on the
フロ
jack
ップ
10
は
4
10-4ジャックのレインボー。エルトンはストレートドロー。ですがこのボードは IB 側にも有利なボードです。フロップはチェックラウンド。ターンは9のステード。ストレートの完成です。
Nuts.
エルトンはスロープレー。チェックします。
Trying to get Ivey to bet. There we go.
ここで IB は5万のポットに対して3万のベッド。
There's a lot of reason to check raise the turn, just because your opponent could have a decent piece that can pay off.
エルトン、ここで8万5000のチェックレイズ。バリューを取りに行きます。
To check back this flop in then get check raised. It's quite scary because of the straight nature of the board. He is still going to make the call, so
アイビーはコール。
maybe Ivey's got like a
セ
two
ットか
pair,
2ペアでしょうか。
set of nines. With the
リ
queen.
バーはキングのダイヤ。
Not what Elton wants to see.
Four-liner on board. Any queen X shares the king high straight with Elton.
There probably is a little bit of ace queen in Phil Ivey's range. Check back flop, back call turn. Definitely reasonable.
这副牌你看，这副牌这个给了我，这个了我说他这个手上的没有欧成，他打掉了500。
It is very difficult for Elton to get called by worse as played right now.
这个牌怎么打得这么大？他那个 S 没有大起来，只有破住啊。他那个
Remember, it was, as you mentioned,
エルトンはチェック。
check, check, flop, check, raise, turn. Ivey hung in there, and he was the pre-flop raiser in the face of the Elton limp. And now Elton checking over. And obviously this could potentially induce
这边看
Ivey to bet, unable to beat the king high straight.
扣住啊，没有。
But it also protects Elton from being blown off of it if he were to try to value bet. And now just look at how meaty this sizing is.
アイビーは
Phil
ここでポットサイズのベットをしま
at
す。
best we're
You are
chopping.
a lucky man, Phil Ivey.
Oh, and the ace queen is there.
エルトンは勝ちを確信し
Elton knew it.
コール。
Wow.
アイビーのハンドはエースクイーン、ナッツのストレートでした。
Wow.
エルトンがクイーンをブロックしていたので、スロープレーは悪いプレーだとは思っていませんでしたが、結果的にアンラッキーでした。アイビー側はタイトなプレーが功を奏しました。
Wow.
发个 K 给他，想要你吗？
That river bet was max value from Ivey. Really just got the most.
Nice hand, Phil Ivey.
I mean, there was 220 something in there. Not great odds.
It's not, and I suppose it depends on how often you think Ivey will try to move you off of a chop.
アイビーはエースクイーンオフスートをリンクし
When
ました。
Elton plays his hand that way,
ここまでのアイビー、だいぶハンドを絞ってます。
rarely ever has a
動画では
queen.
カットしてますが、1時間参加しない時もあります。
Someone 110K? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's
シュアンは98スートでボタンからレイズ。
You had king 6 and king 9. I don't know.
It felt like considering the magnitude of the bet, maybe
エルトンはコール。
Elton would have been better served just to give himself a little bit more time before making that call. I'm not sure that he would have come to any sort of different conclusion. It was a pretty nasty spot to be
アイビー
pitting.
もコールし、
I do
スリーウェイ
like
で
that
フロップへ向かいます。
he checked, though, rather than bet on the
Yes,
river.
100%.
Ivey
Queen
は
5
トッ
top
プ
pair,
ペア
top
トップキ
kicker
ッカ
as
ー。
Ivey begins to sizzle. Does not fire.
That's player dependent because he's up against Tan Xuan on the button. He knows his player loves to bet when check two. And he's firing
シュアンは
at
ベット。
33,000.
Remember, Ivey played this one as a limp and simply called Tan's raise
アイビーはコールします。
pre-flop.
看抛，
Tan
看
ターンはエース。
barrels 33, gets called down to heads up, and a card that maybe Tan is going to
ツー
end up
ペアの
trying
ア
to
イビー
rep,
は
which
スロ
of
ー
course
プレ
we know has smacked Ivey for top 2. Again, he checks. Slipping rope. And if you think that this was a limp with something like Queen 10, Queen Jack,
发个 K，
not one of the more premium Queen X's, then all of a sudden you could understand Tan's decision to reach for chips here and target that sort of holding as he bet 62K with 9 high.
是如果打他，是够。
Ivey's main game plan here should be to just check call. He knows that Tantrum likes to fire. Raising doesn't really do anything but blows up bluffs like this that are drawing dead. And he has no flush draws to be worried about. 9 on the river. It's not really showdown value just because Tantrum.
Iveyはチェッ
never
ク。
check calling the turn with worse than a 9.
Yeah, there's no flush draw out there. Size-wise, we can really get rid of the Broadway gutters. Both courtesy of the flop, check call, and then of course the one on the turn. So
手腕はチェック。
that maybe the gig is up.
Is how does the
Like
board
even
look
if you bring me, like or
when you kind of chase draws?
not, they have to only so many bracelets.
Yeah.
How many bracelets they give you?
I don't know. It's enough, I think. But
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. It's hard to bring other. It's annoying.
Ace 5 suited.
アイビーはスモールブラインドからエース5スートでリンクします。
Ace 5 off. Ferdy shoots it.
フェルディナンドはビッグブラインドからスクイーズします。
Back over to Phil. Added cost of
アイ
admission.
ビーはコール。
Weathered. 49 dimes in the middle. And an ace as well.
お互いフロップでトップペア。
Exact same hand. With no prospects of either player making a clean winner. Given the lack of a spade on board.
This one's going to be carved up as a drop by the river. They're probably going to go for check on the turn, I imagine, if Ferdinand bets the flop. It's just one of those hands when you're playing this kicker where you're just checking down a lot just because you can easily
フェルディナンドのベッドにコール。
never 3 streets. Rarely
call.
2. Like if there was a second street coming in, it probably would be Ferdinand trying to charge a 7x. But this is pretty standard.
ターンはチェックラウンド。
2 pair.
リバーは5。チョップです。
Interesting card insofar as it fills in some straights. I'm not sure as played the assignment of 3-4 in particular would get
アイ
made.
ビーはここで
Ivey does reach
オー
out
バー
and
ベッ
fire
トします。
100,000 though. Ferdy's never folding
He's
this.
never folding, but you don't love it whenever someone puts an overbet out there.
Sure.
But there is a chance that Phil Ivey has got like a worse 2 pair. You can't fold this. So let's chop it up.
フェルディナンドがコールし、チョップで終わりました。
还有一大万五就给你。
アイビーはダブルストラドルを選択。
Well, that's courtesy of the
Ferdinando
AK
Araizu.
double straddle, which is on for this final round of play.
Suited 7 in there again for Tan. 1 pip down.
都不是说电视结束就爬坑，
Tony's itching to play.
你什么情况？
Loose suited.
Deuce of spades.
Like the stakes have
Wants to
gone up,
gamble.
but everyone's playing looser.
It is an awkward phenomenon. And look, Ivey.
Gosh. A
手腕、
3
トニー
suited.
ジー、そしてアイビーがコールし、
Alright,
フロップ。
91,000 in the middle, single raise pot.
Hearts, the only suit not represented as a combo, and of course, that's what shows up. King 4 tray, top pair for Tony G. He's in the lead.
He's way out in front.
Both he and Ivey, who has bottom pair, check it over to Ferdy. Pre-flop raiser with second pair effective.
很想来啊。
See if he tries to gather intel with a C bet here to potentially thin the herd and find out where King X lies.
要看3张嘛。
25K he decides ought to get that done.
对。
Quarter quickly thrown in by Tony
フェルディ
G.
ナンドのベッドにフォールド。
Extended play.
4万块。
啊，买的大了，什么都大了嘛。
对啊。
Elton with that limpy business.
ボタンから52000のレイズ。ハンドはエースジャックスート。アイビーのラストハンドです。
Yeah, he's really made it quite large, 52k hands. Seen him 3-bet with less, of course he's going to 3-bet. Just 115, which is an interesting sizing to choose.
ハンズは11万のレイズ。エースキングです。
Slight north.
Yeah. Those ducks are roasted.
Santana.
Against this price, the ace jack of clubs
怎么又继续了？
often comes in.
什么意思？
那一桌。
还结束的吗？我也不知道。
Hand's doing a great job of
アイビーはコー
keeping
ル。
in a holding that is in trouble on his feet, surveying exactly how much they're playing for. Jack 8-6,
アイビ
top
ー、フロッ
pair,
プでジャックの
top
トップ
kicker.
ペア。
Careful what you wish for as you play a $250,000 pot up against Phil Ivey, who's got you in bad shape now. The inverse of the setup pre-flop.
Yeah, that's one of the cons of making it small pre. You let ace jack come along. No spade in hand for hands, but he's still going to fire a continuation bet, quarter pot, or maybe closer to 20%.
ハンズは55000の C ベット。アイビーはコール。
Content to flat himself.
ターンは9。
Another 110 into the middle. Pot grows to 366, but the ace-king does not grow to anything greater, as it's still just no pair.
This is a hand you tend to knuckle over.
ハ
A
ン
lot
ズは
of
チェッ
calls on
ク。
a flop. They might turn something worthy of another call, so makes sense that hands is giving up. There is a question for Ivey whether to bet or not. He's going to check.
アイビーもチェック。リバーは7。
So a four-liner on the river.
It's unlikely hands ever has a 10 here, especially with the 3-bet sizing he went for pre. You just gotta wave the white flag.
Ace king.
お互いチェックし、トップペアのアイビーが勝ち取りました。
That the ace-king was performing poorly is hands.
いかがでしたでしょうか。ハンドレンジの厳選とポジションプレイの見事な活用。タイトなプレイスタイルを基本としながらも、適切なタイミングでのブラフを織り交ぜることで、相手に読まれにくい、バランスの取れたプレイを展開されていました。マルチウェイポットでの慎重なアプローチは、経験に裏打ちされた賢明な判断だったと言えます。そして、このタイトな戦略があったからこそ、大きなポットを獲得できた場面では、その価値を最大限に引き出すことができたのではないでしょうか。個人的には、理想的なプレイスタイルの一つと思っています。今回の動画はこれで終わりです。もしよければ、チャンネル登録とグッドボタンをお願いします。では、次の動画でお会いしましょう。